Henri Le Suc, a member of the American OSS, was a French resistance fighter. In 1944, he was 63 years old. He fought in the final battle for Paris. Today, he is a recognized artist living in New York City.
Pendant la Première Guerre, in the First World War, I was wounded 3 times. In the Second War, they almost wouldn't take me because of my age.
Heinz Gunther was a sergeant in the German Wehrmacht. In 1944, he too fought in the Battle for Paris, a seasoned 2-year veteran at only 18 years of age. Today, he is a foreman of an industrial paint shop in Southern California.
Ich war noch sehr jung, als ich nach Frankreich kam. When I arrived in France, I was quite young. Like every soldier, I looked forward to spending a few days on leave in Paris. I had always heard about Paris, and now I was going to see it. But it left me with a memory I shall never forget.
In the turbulent streets of Paris, the lives of Heinz Gunther and Henri Le Suc came together for a brief moment. 2 fighting men, 1 German, 1 Frenchman, relived that moment in history. I'm Jim Bishop. I want you to see some sketches made by Henri Le Suc, a man who fought in the Battle for Paris. When the street fighting was over, he drew these sharp impressions. In August 1944, 3 forces want Paris. The Germans, who have been there 4 years, the Allies, who are beating their way toward the city from Normandy, and the French underground. Militarily, Paris is an open city. In a few days, it will be open for ambush, for vengeance, for slaughter. On the 14th of June, 1940, the Germans triumphantly march into Paris. The swastika atop the Eiffel Tower casts a dark shadow over the beaten French and their city of light. Becomes the rest camp and playground for the German military. The Germans have strict orders for correct behavior. Soon, food and wine become scarce. Curfews are set up and a strict form of rationing goes into effect. Transportation becomes a problem as gasoline is unavailable. Parisians take to their bicycles. The Parisians become aloof. Whenever mention is made of the Germans, they invariably reply, "What Germans?" England, 1944. The Allies are preparing for the liberation of Europe. One man who will participate in this effort is Henri Le Suc. Turned down several times by the services because of age, he is now a member of the OSS, the American Espionage Organization.
I am trained in the art of self-defense and other nice things, such as pickpocketing, opening safes, breaking doors, and killing people without using anything more than my bare hands. We are taught to kill and steal and how to avoid being trailed. British ex-cons are giving us lessons. We are learning everything crooked from A to Z. We are chosen for this work because we are honest men. A crook will sell anything, even his country. But an honest man will do whatever he has to do for his country alone and nothing else. One beautiful day, they told me I was going to parachute. Since I am the oldest man, I must set the example and go first. Jumping is an extraordinary sensation. Jumping is decidedly a negative art. My assignment is to help coordinate the different elements of the underground. I am in France at last, and it is quite an experience. Paris looks the same, but the people of Paris seem to be starving.
By 1944, the liberty-loving French answer the German occupation with a swelling underground resistance movement. Although divided politically, the four major groups, Gaullists, FFI, the Maquis, and the Communists, are of one mind in their opposition to the German occupiers.
At the beginning, the underground did not know one another. As a matter of fact, they still don't know anybody's right name. It is always Henri, Charles, Georges. This is best. If the Germans catch you, you can't tell what you know. If you know nothing, you tell nothing. I have taught a group how to use plastic explosives. Once a week, we leave the city to blow up a bridge or a train. I am delighted with these exciting moments.
Anticipating the forthcoming invasion, the Germans are digging in and reinforcing the Atlantic wall defenses along the northern coast of France. One man, a paratrooper attached to the Panzer Division, is Sergeant Heinz Gunther.
We are told that invasion is impossible, but we have the feeling that something is going on. There are many rumors in the air. We are just not sure what it's all about. It is true. The Allies had landed. They have landed on a beach about 20 miles from us. There's much fighting now, and they are pushing us back. It is hell. They are shooting all around us. We are not certain about what is going on. We have lost a lot of soldiers. There isn't much left of our company. We have been ordered back to Paris to take a rest. I am very happy. I like Paris.
We can't believe the Allies have really landed on French soil. Our hearts are in our mouth until we know definitely that the Americans are advancing. The Germans only briefly mention it in the newspapers.
Paris still appears peaceful, yet 4 years of oppression, 4 years of slavery, 4 years of hatred explode. July 14th, Bastille Day. For the first time in 4 years of occupation, tricolored flags are seen throughout the city.
Two days ago, I was given a new assignment. It is to patrol the streets by truck. I like the city, but you have got to be careful of some of the French people, because they have rifles and machine guns hidden away.
On August 14th, General Dietrich von Scholtitz is sent from Normandy to take command of the German forces in Paris. The first order from Hitler states, Paris is to lose its character as a soft haven immediately. All unnecessary personnel are to leave right away for the front. On August 15th, a general strike is called by the resistance. Several thousand police and railway workers join in. Civil authority breaks down.
The Allies are nearing Paris. Frenchmen are appearing on the streets, showing their whole enthusiasm and happiness. All the police are on strike. The metro has stopped running. Barricades are being constructed on some of the street corners. Most of my men are young, some in their teens. I am the oldest. They call me the old one. I don't mind. Age doesn't matter in this type of war. We are ready to fight and harass the Boche the best way we can. We are trying to liberate Paris by ourselves. But the Germans are all over the place and we have little to fight with. Every time a German is killed or taken prisoner, it means more arms for us. If we are caught, we will be put against the wall and shot in 5 minutes.
I keep busy patrolling the streets. We want to leave town, but the French won't let us. Paris is all mixed up.
One by one, strategic sections of the city fall into the hands of the French. Von Scholtitz confers with civil authorities and entreats them to maintain order in the city, safeguard the lives of his troops, and above all, preserve what he truly believes is the cultural center of Europe. On Sunday, August 20th, with the help of the Swedish consul, a truce agreement is reached between von Scholtitz and the resistance leaders. Both sides agreed to an immediate ceasefire and to hold present positions. The Germans may continue to evacuate, but must avoid the center of the city. The streets of Paris are again turned into a shooting gallery. On this day, von Scholtitz receives his final order from Hitler. Defend Paris to the last man. Reduce her to a heap of ruins. And if necessary, be prepared to die yourself and be buried under them.
Heard of any truce. Our orders are to get out of town as fast as possible. The Americans are all around Paris. We see some French people who look friendly, and we ask them the way out of town. They tell us the way that is wrong, and we run right into another barricade. The French fired us from behind windows and doors. I'm not afraid of the American soldier. It is the French I am afraid of. the Americans didn't see us leaving. But what could we do but run away? The Americans had 10 tanks and we had 1 truck.
Leclerc and Patton deploy their troops to surround the city. Later in the day, in order to ease the tension of the anxious Parisians, a small detachment of Leclerc's tanks enter the city. August 25th, in complete defiance of Hitler's orders, General von Scholtitz surrenders the Paris he loves and has helped to keep alive.
The news that the surrender is being approved is all over the place. Everybody is happy. Mon Dieu, it is something. Everybody is bringing out the wine they have been hiding for so long. It is a scene I shall never forget for as long as I live. It is fantastic.
Henri Lesuc is later honored with a Silver Star, and the war will end quietly for him in his beloved Paris. Sergeant Heinz Gunther is captured by the Americans in Belgium later in the year. The battle for Paris has ended, and the greatest city in a great nation is reborn.
General sagte immer zu mir, the general always said, someday there will be a big bang. Don't think the Americans are going to leave us alone. They will come. And when they do, they will all come at once.
Today, Hermann Scheifele is an executive with an electronics firm in Cologne, Germany. In 1943, he was a lieutenant in the German Luftwaffe, stationed in Ploesti, Romania. Norman Appold is now a research engineer, living with his wife and 2 daughters in Sunnyvale, California. In World War II, as the pilot of an American B-24, he too went to Ploesti.
When we started out on the mission, we didn't realize how difficult it would be. And if you ask any one of us who got back if we wanted to go on another one like it tomorrow, I don't think anyone would have said yes.
At Ploesti, Romania, the lives of Hermann Scheifele and Norman Appold came together for a brief moment. 2 fighting men, one German, one American, relive that moment in history. I'm Jim Bishop. 5 months after America's entry into the war, a band of Liberator bombers hastily takes off from Florida on a special mission. The orders are to bomb Tokyo. The raid is intended as a morale booster similar to that of the Doolittle raid a month earlier. However, the objective is dramatically changed. They are instructed to strike at the source of Germany's vital oil production, the Astro Romano plant in Ploesti, Romania. The Astro Romano plant, the largest oil refinery in Ploesti, is only one of 11 in a great industrial complex. This single city, 35 miles north of Bucharest, supplies nearly 1/3 of all the oil for the German war machine. Here is the food for the mechanized army, for the Luftwaffe, and for the Grand Fleet. When German soldiers first come across the Romanian border in 1940, they come not as invaders, but as invited guests of the government. The welcome is warm, the duty considered choice. Romanian guidebooks list the country's chief natural resources as cereal and oil. The Germans are not interested in cereal. In exchange for military aid, the Romanian government allows Germany to take over control of the oil refineries in Ploesti. Hitler calls Ploesti indispensable to the German cause. He places the job of protecting it in the hands of Luftwaffe Colonel Alfred Gerstenberg, regarded by many as the air defense genius of the war. Then, for almost 2 years, nothing interrupts the production of oil. Not even the Americans' first surprise bomber raid in the middle of 1942. Still, the attempt has made Gerstenberg uneasy. He tells his staff, this is the beginning, and demands more reinforcements. One of the men to arrive is 40-year-old Hermann Scheifele. As a lieutenant in the Luftwaffe, he will serve as adjutant for the 5th Anti-Aircraft Group.
I'm one of the first to become lieutenant in my regiment, and I must say I enjoy life with the soldiers. I like being a soldier, and in Ploesti it is especially good. Of course, we sometimes suffer a little from the heat, but we have light uniforms to wear, and the atmosphere amongst us is good.
Gerstenberg works 16 hours a day to make Ploesti attack-proof. He builds protective walls around the refineries. The entire city and all approaches are surrounded by a ring of artillery. All the refineries around Ploesti are tied together by a single emergency pipeline. In that way, even if a refinery is damaged, oil can continue to flow. Russian prisoners and Romanian laborers are used to speed up construction. As added protection, an intricate network of warning systems is set up, able to detect enemy aircraft hundreds of miles from the city. Ploesti becomes a colossal fortress. July 1943. American B-24s come in for a landing at Benghazi in North Africa. Here in this desert base, captured only 2 months earlier from Rommel's Africa Corps, they will train for a top-secret mission, codenamed Operation Tidal Wave. Among the new arrivals is 26-year-old Air Corps Major Norman Appold. A B-24 pilot, Appold is a squadron commander in the 376th Bomber Group.
Most of us have no idea what this is all about. We don't know any of these men we're assigned to, yet they are our friends. We're strangers, but we have to work together. Living in the desert is certainly a new experience. It's cold in the morning and hot in the daytime. Strictly a blowing sand and dust situation on many days. You are eating it and gulping it. The conditions are primitive, but when you're 26, it's an adventure. You're no longer living in the protective atmosphere of restaurants and private homes. I don't really think I'd want to go through it every day for a living, but there's not much point in complaining.
Roaring 10 feet over the dunes at 200 miles an hour, the pilots learn to handle 70,000 pounds of armored airplane like a torpedo bomber.
The B-24s are not really built for low-level flying. They're big, clumsy-looking airplanes. We call them elephants and pregnant cows.
Every day, the B-24s race over the desert floor, perfecting bombing and navigational accuracy, learning to zero in on target from a visual checkpoint.
From all the practice, we know we're going for a low-level target. But nobody but the planners really seems to know where or what it is.
While the Americans are living one kind of life in the desert, the Germans are living an altogether different kind in Ploesti.
We are paid in Romanian money, and as long as our money lasts, we can live very well. Mostly the soldiers do not spend much. There is plenty of good wine which we buy from the estates and wonderful tasting cigarettes. Very cheap too, only a pfennig each. Sometimes it seems like the war is being fought in another world, but that's only sometimes. One can never really forget that he's stationed in an area that is an important target. The general has ordered the German and Romanian planes to stage practice attacks on Ploesti on every exercise flight, and we have an alarm almost every day. Even on Sundays, our defense is kept constantly alert. They dive all over the place, and we never know when the next alarm is coming.
The last week in July, the American bomber crews find out what they have been practicing for. For the first time in war, fighting men are shown a motion picture simulating the target they are about to hit. This film, shown to them at different speeds, has been made by shooting a scale model of Ploesti from a tricycle.
and how well the valley shows up behind the target. And note the oil derricks to the south of the target. These are your targets. The white arrow on the screen points to the boiler house and powerhouse, without which your refinery cannot operate. This arrow points to the distillation plant. This next arrow also points to another section of the same distillation plant. And finally, this arrow to the cracking plant. All these points are vital parts of the target. And these are the refineries which you are not going to attack. They are not worth a bomb. Not this one. Not this one. Nor this one. And not this one. The aircraft on the screen are on the line of your run-up to the target. This is the line of attack. The fighter defenses at Ploesti are not strong, and the majority of the fighters will be flown by Romanian pilots who are thoroughly bored with the war. The anti-aircraft defenses of Ploesti are estimated at 80 heavy AA guns and 160 light AA guns. The heavy ack should not trouble you at low altitude. All the anti-aircraft guns are manned by Romanians, and so there's a pretty good chance that there may be incidents like there were in Italy at the beginning of the war, when civilians could not get into the shelters because they were filled with anti-aircraft gunners. You remember the raid on Tokyo? That was a big job and an important job. And the first daylight raid on Europe by our flying fortresses, that was another big job. But the Nazis and the Wasps ain't felt nothing yet.
We believe that the Nazis and the fascists have asked for it, and they're going to get it.
The job of knocking out the Romanian refineries is the biggest job of the war. It's your job. Okay, let's hit it.
Sunday morning, August 1st, 1943. The wait is over. 177 B-24s speed down the runways on the African desert. Target, Ploesti.
A lot of people criticize the plan for a low-level bombing, but I think it's a good idea. Stay low and the enemy radar can't pick you up. It's your best chance for surprise.
From Benghazi, one message is sent, warning Allied battle stations around the Mediterranean to expect the friendly aircraft. A cracked German signal unit in Greece intercepts the message and breaks the code.
When you fly a mission, you know it's a great adventure, but you're worried about your crew, about running out of gas, about the great unknown, the target itself, and about getting back. Sure, you're scared. I don't think there's a person in this world who wouldn't be. If you're not, you're probably a fool. I think everybody wishes we had a fighter escort along, but for fighters, Ploesti is too far. We're going deeper into enemy territory than we've ever gone before.
11:30 a.m. Halfway to the target, the lead plane goes haywire. Lost with the falling plane is the only navigator specifically trained to lead the attack force into Ploesti.
You know an accident like that caused the loss of 8 or 9 lives, and you begin to realize how serious this business of being in a war is. You also work a little harder, because you don't want the same thing to happen to you. We hit heavy clouds and the formations start to separate. Some of them head under. But my boss up front starts to climb and I go with him.
The planes are now out of order. Some try to reassemble. The rest speed to the first checkpoint. 12:20 noon. The German radar stations at Ploesti pick up the formation for the first time as it climbs to 16,000 feet to fly over the mountains of Yugoslavia. All indications point to one target, Ploesti. p.m. The lead plane makes a fatal mistake. Thinking the final checkpoint has been reached, it suddenly turns.
My navigator says we shouldn't be making this turn at all. I keep hoping I'm wrong, and we all keep looking for Ploesti.
Finally, the lead plane realizes its mistake, corrects its course, and radios new orders. Break formation and strike targets of opportunity. Carries more than 2.5 tons of explosives. The demolition bombs are especially made with delayed fuses. Some won't go off for 6 hours after they're dropped. Others will explode in about 45 seconds. Precise timing is essential. The last wave of planes has just enough time to get out of the target area before the fireworks start.
I've never seen such large machines, flying lower than I have ever seen in Romania. Right away I know they are Americans.
The rest of the American bombers are entering the target area. Underneath them, the bombs of the first group are about to explode.
To night, bombs and gasoline tanks are exploding everywhere. All over the city the bombs are falling, and even the planes themselves are falling.
job now is to get back home.
Operation Tidal Wave is over. For the Americans, the casualties are appalling. 1 out of every 5 men does not return. Nearly 1/3 of the planes are lost in action. For the United States Army Air Corps, it is the worst catastrophe in its history. Nine months after Operation Tidal Wave, Allied planes return again and again to Ploesti. Finally, in August 1944, they bomb it around the clock for 3 consecutive days. 4.5 million pounds of explosives blast a permanent hole in the Romanian oil barrel. The Germans call it the greatest blow struck by Allied air power in World War II. Lieutenant Hermann Scheifele, unwounded in the bombing raid, stays on with the Luftwaffe in Romania. Later taken prisoner by the Americans, he will serve as military governor of an occupied town in Austria. Major Norman Appold survives to keep another date with Ploesti. He will then move to Italy as part of the Allies' final offensive against the Axis. No single mission was able to finish Ploesti. It took thousands of planes, men, and bombs. The sacrifice was enormous. Sometimes only sacrifice can bring victory.